We haven't even gotten to weigh-ins yet, and we already have some mix-ups. We've lost one entire fight, and now we have a last-minute replacement. We have Cody Brundage taking off Nick Maximov. We've already broken down Nick Maximov because he was supposed to fight Carl Robertson. Carl Robertson is out. He said an injury, pretty vague. Either way, he's out. We've got Cody Brundage stepping in. Carl Robertson, we talked about him in that breakdown. Primarily a striker, but a pretty well-rounded guy. Cody Brundage, the new last-minute replacement opponent, very different fighter. He's primarily a grappler. Sticks to a wrestling game plan, looking to get it on the ground and work from there. Very different matchup for Nick than he was expecting originally, and we'll talk about that in a second. Cody Brundage, 6-1 overall, 4-1 in his last 5. His only loss to Connecticut's own William Knight on the Contender Series. Nick Maximov, 6-0, 5-0 in his last 5. This is an interesting matchup. Things changed quite a bit in this fight, honestly, and the odds makers don't know what to do with it. They have this at dead even. The DraftKings prices, always very interesting when you get a last-minute replacement because they don't change the value of the existing fighter. So Nick Maximov, they kept him at 8,000, and they've taken Cody and they said, you know what? He's an underdog here, sizable underdog. Let's make him $7,700, which is interesting. Let's break down their skills, and we'll break down the fight. Nick Maximov, very solid jiu-jitsu guy. He has some college wrestling experience. It's not at the highest level, but he does have college wrestling experience. He knows what he's good at, and he sticks to it. He needs to get this on the ground to win. His striking is not good at all. Not good at all. Nick Maximov, this will be his first official UFC fight, and that's actually the case for both of them. They're both Contender Series guys, and this will be their first fight in the actual UFC and not just on Contender Series. This fight is at middleweight, and if you do your research, you may see Nick Maximov fought in the Contender Series at heavyweight. He went up 2 weight classes to take that fight. Did it on somewhat short notice. He won the fight. Wasn't great. Struggled a little bit, but there was a pretty sizable weight advantage for his opponent. So Nick Maximov got that fight done, stuck to his game plan. Solid technique, but he did struggle with that size a bit. If you dig into the rest of his record, it's a bit hollow. It's a bit hollow. He's got a bunch of wins against guys who have no wins at all, or just not great records. I don't think he fought anybody or beat anybody with a winning record until the Contender Series fight. It's always interesting when you get these undefeated guys, though, because we don't know. Is this 6-0, the beginning of a 100-0, or is he going to end up 6-5 in 2 years? So you never know, and that's always a big concern. I actually like to see guys with losses to see how they lost, why they lost, what that was looking like. So Nick Maximov, again, a grappler who knows he needs to grapple to win. His hands are not very good. He's coming out of the Nick Diaz camp. Cody Brundage, the last-minute replacement, taking this on short notice, which nowadays isn't much of a thing, right? There's some fights where I'm worried about the short notice, but for the most part, short notice since COVID, guys have been ready for a fight, and they're expecting a fight is coming. Cody Brundage, he's a very different fighter than Carl Robertson, as I mentioned. He is a wrestler. And what's funny is he's not as credentialed as a wrestler as Nick Maximov. Nick Maximov wrestled at junior college. Cody Brundage, I think he wrestled at Division II. And you can argue where those sit, right? But as a wrestler with a wrestling background, and I followed wrestling closely for a very long time, I would take junior college wrestling over a Division II wrestler. And that's usually because junior college wrestlers typically are D1 caliber wrestlers that just don't have the grades, have other issues, so they need to go to a junior college, get a good year under their belt, get their grades up, prove to the recruiters that they can, yes, I can stay in college and do the right things. Then they'll make the jump to D1. So that's just speculation here, but Nick Maximov is the more credentialed wrestler. Cody Brundage wrestled in college, I believe. Not a great career, but listen, to get there, to compete there, it still says a lot. And he was a pretty good high school wrestler before then. He sticks to a wrestling game plan. When he's standing, big, heavy bombs, not great, but big, heavy strikes to set up the wrestling, and his wrestling is chain wrestling. He'll shoot, miss it, shoot, and he'll just stick to a wrestle-heavy game plan. If you go to his loss, I just mentioned I like to see people lose. if you go to his loss, it was against William Knight, Connecticut's own. I'm from Connecticut. William's from Connecticut. Nick Newell, who's a part of this show when he's not too busy, is good friends with William Knight. We've broken him down many times. But if you watch that fight, Cody Brundage takes William down. Cody Brundage is beating on William Knight, beating him badly. And then the fight starts to go on a little bit, takes a shot, holding the legs like this, head down, not supposed to do that, holding like this, taking his time, and William Knight with the Travis Brown elbows to the side of the head just lays in to Cody Brundage and stops him. So listen, it actually told me a good amount because it tells me that Brundage gets comfortable. It tells me that, he doesn't necessarily push when he's supposed to push because he was winning that fight, got tired, took a little time, got comfortable, and put himself in harm's way because of that. So it's interesting. Cody, good wrestler, okay grappling. And this is a really hard fight to pick because let's break them down. I like to do that. Cody Brundage is a wrestler, but not as good of a wrestler. So Maximov's a better wrestler. Check for him. Cody Brundage is probably the more well-rounded fighter. His striking's a little better. It's not great. Neither one are great. But his striking's a little better, so we'll give him a check there. Cody Brundage is the more effective wrestler. So we gave Maximov the wrestling thumbs up because he's the more accomplished wrestler. But I would actually give the MMA wrestling and the effective wrestling to Cody Brundage. And the reason I separated those is because Cody is more effective in his wrestling. He sticks to a chain wrestling, wrestle first game plan where Nick will wrestle, but it's just not, he's not as forward with it. He's not as aggressive with it. But what will be interesting is if Cody brings the wrestling to Nick, he's going to shoot. He's going to bring it to Nick. Will Nick's sort of better wrestling, higher level wrestling force scrambles and end up on top? And that's a big question here because Nick's the better grappler. So if Cody forces the takedowns, there's the other thumbs up. I lost track of what I was doing there. But Cody's going to come in there, shoot takedowns. Nick will either force a scramble, end up on top, force a scramble, end up with a submission, or get taken down and sort of be stuck on his back playing the jiu-jitsu game from there while Cody elbows him and controls the position. This is a very, very hard fight to pick. A very hard fight to pick. I am going to pick Maximov because I think he has the finishing upside. So Cody Brundage has heavier hands, but listen, it's not very technical. It's kind of all over the place, and I think he's going to shoot. I think he's going to shoot early, honestly. So I like Maximov because if he gets to the ground, he's got the clear advantage. He is the more accomplished wrestler, and we may see him say, I'm not even going to mess with this. I'm going to shoot. But I do think if Cody forces the pace, if Cody forces some takedowns, Nick Maximov may be able to create a scramble, end up on top, and then work his jiu-jitsu from there. So I'm picking Maximov, but honestly, some of it may be because I'm jaded from last week, where last week I picked the last minute short notice guy against Zhu Rong. I felt good about it, and then he got embarrassed. Like he was just absolutely punished. And I only got 3 fights wrong on that entire card, and that was one of them. So there may be some recency bias here for me where I'm sticking with the person who was on the card. But it's a very close fight. These odds are spot on, honestly. And the only reason Nick's a little bit bigger of a favorite is because he was already on the card. It's not short notice for him. So listen, that's the breakdown. We have wrestler versus wrestler, decent striking or okay striking versus not very good striking, okay jiu-jitsu versus very good jiu-jitsu. So it's a weird, hard, tough matchup. I'm sorry I can't give you a stake in the ground. This is the pick. But I'm not going to pretend that I'm 100% high on somebody. But Nick Maximov is the pick. I think the jiu-jitsu is the differentiator because you know what? If he's losing the striking exchanges, he can dive for a takedown. He can shoot a takedown. And Cody is a primary wrestler. So even if Cody's winning the striking, he may end up just going to wrestling out of instinct. So I like Nick Maximov to pull something off, make something happen with the jiu-jitsu. He can implement his own wrestling game plan if he wants to. And I think he can dictate where this fight goes, where Cody's going to shoot the takedowns. Cody historically seems to be the more effective wrestler in MMA, but bringing the wrestling to Nick Maximov may actually be a problem for Cody if Nick can force some scrambles and really bring that high-level jiu-jitsu out and make something happen. So that's the breakdown, guys. As far as Monkey Knife Fight is concerned, we don't have a line yet. There may be one out before the fight. I think this fight goes a little bit, honestly. So I don't know what that line is going to be. And Chris is probably going to watch this video before he sets that line. But I do think, you know, a more on the line is probably solid because they may go at it. And if it's a higher line and we see 60s, 70s, then I'll probably do the less and assume there's a bunch of grappling there. Monkey Knife Fight, no line yet, but go to wewantpicks.com/MKF or play mkf.com/UFC 266. If you haven't signed up yet, there's a free contest. You can play for free and win some money if you get it right. DraftKings, $7,700 for Cody Brundage is honestly probably a solid play because he may get a couple of takedowns. First of all, he may win the fight, but he also may get some takedowns, get some control. He may get some work in for $7,700. I think Nick is probably more live for a stoppage and an upset, $8,000. It's not an upset at this point. He's a favorite, but a stoppage, $8,000. It's probably not bad either, but I don't know if I'm confident enough to put either one of these guys in my lineup. It is too close of a fight. Two true debuts in the UFC. A lot of question marks here for both guys. We've never seen Nick really pushed. Cody's taking this on short notice. We don't know what that's like. We haven't seen Cody fight a high-level wrestler. We haven't seen Nick fight anybody with a winning record outside of that heavyweight fight. It's too many question marks. It's all over the place. Nick's the pick because I got to make a pick. It's a pick show. But, you know, lots of stuff going on here. Let me know in the comments. You guys may honestly have a much better insight than I do here. I broke down a bunch of tape for both of them, and I did not leave it saying, oh, well, this guy's definitely going to win, and here's why. Still too many questions to put any money on this fight. Maybe I'll play the Monkey Knife Fight strike line when I see it. Let me know what you guys think. wewantpicks.com for matches, promos, and everything else. We'll see you guys Saturday, and we'll have all of our final videos after the weigh-ins.